Lisa. Happy New Year! I'm about to do my favorite page of the year, which is always the page that wraps up the prior year and sets goals and objectives for the new year. And I also usually start with a photograph of myself, sometimes multiple photos or sometimes just one photo. I took a bunch of selfies the other day. I have a new camera and has a feature on it that makes it easy for me to take quite a few selfies. So I took a whole bunch of them. And I picked out of those these two. And this one, of course, I wasn't really going for the sun coming across my face, but I liked it. I thought it was an interesting picture. I would probably crop out that top there, make it more square. There's a little bit in the background of a project that I was working on. You can see a little bit of the word believe at the top, which is some mixed media art that I have in the room. And I think it's very good for this page. I really like the photo. And I also like this photo. I did several just shots of me. I'm inclined towards using this one and saving the other one for another project. I don't know what yet, but I really like this one because it is a clearer shot, and each year I do this and I take a picture, and it may be interesting to go back and look at how I've changed over time. Right now, when I look at it, I'm seeing the things that have not changed for the better as I've gotten older. But then again, 10 years from now, this one will probably look good. So I think I'm going to stick with this photo. I could even use both of them because I've decided to do this as a two-pager. It's evolved in that I was going to do just one page. I went hunting this background fabric. This blouse that I have on, I knew I had this paper that would be a really pretty print to go with it. And what I didn't remember is that I had so much stuff left in this Urban Luxe collection that goes with that paper. I have lots of other 12 by 12 papers. I don't have any more of that one, I don't think, but I have lots of others here, some really cool papers. This one, I don't know if I can work that in or not, but I've got a lot of nice papers here that work with it. I have these little banners that really work well with the theme of setting objectives and encouraging myself for the new year. I needed some 6 by 6 papers to do the layout I had in mind. I've got those, and I've even got some cute little sequins and buttons and all kinds of cool stuff in here that goes with this collection and I think works for the theme and the colors that I'm trying to match. Now, before I even got to this paper, though, I noticed out on my work table that I had some stamps laying here. And I've looked at those stamps and I thought, boy, those stamps really go with the flowers on the shirt. How can I work that in? What I have in mind is I always have to have a way to display my journaling, which is my accomplishments from last year, resolution, goals, objectives. And there's a lot of information, a lot of personal information. This goes in an album that's about me, and I'm pretty much the only person that sees that, but it doesn't mean that I'm the only person who will ever see it. And if I have a friend who wants to flip through it, I don't necessarily want to say, oh, you can't look at those pages, because that's really, really personal. So I usually put that information in pockets or in some way to contain a lot of text and to keep it from where it's just not quite as obvious when you flip through. So I've done all kinds of things to hide them, and one of the things I thought I might do this year is to take a piece of vellum and stamp the flowers, like on the shirt, over the vellum, and then lay the vellum on top of the words. And it won't completely conceal them, but it will kind of keep them in the background a little bit. And I'll fix it so that I can raise the vellum and read the goals and objectives as the year goes on if I want to refer back to that page. I keep a copy of them on my computer, and that's usually how I refer to them. But I love doing this page. It's always fun because I get to do whatever I want. I'm not trying to tell a story about an event. I'm doing just whatever papers and things I'm interested in the moment. And usually it's a single photo, which, quite frankly, those pages are easier to do than multiple photos, I think, for the most part. I think that's why you see most scrapbookers. You see more of those in scrapbooking. I won't say that's why most people do them, but you'll see more of those. It's just easier to do a single photo than to do a whole bunch of photos that tell a story and get them all on one page. But I'm thinking about going ahead and doing this as a two-pager. I don't know. I'm just going to start laying it out, getting my text printed out. I worked on my goals and objectives I've worked on getting my accomplishments pulled together over the last few days, and last night I sat down on New Year's Eve and worked on my goals and objectives. I want to review those a little bit more and then print them out and be ready to get started on this page. I'm debating my background papers here, and I know I want to use that stripe. I have the solid pink, and then I have this pink geometric that I have enough to do the two-pager. I have two sheets of it, which is a rare thing for me. I'll be, of course, having the journaling over there on the left-hand side. I really, though, think that I like the solid pink. I'm just going to have to trim it down and use it a little more discreet, a little more carefully so that I stretch it out for the page. And there is a way to do that. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. So, and I have one extra strip of it that will help stretch it a little bit more. So let's start with the stamping, and I'm going to emboss this sheet of vellum. This is Stamping Up Vellum. I have used Stamping Up products for about 12 years, and I had never tried their vellum until a few months ago, and I love it. It's so much better than any other vellum I've ever bought. It's a little bit thicker. It just embosses great. I just love it. So, and it's a good price. So that's something I'll be adding to Stamping Up orders in the future, I'm sure. It only comes in the white, unfortunately, but you can do that. Now, I'm using Distress Oxide inks, which are like a pigment ink. They stay wet for a little while, and with them staying wet, you can put clear embossing powder on them, and then you can just heat emboss them. When you heat emboss vellum, you need to go quickly over it so that you don't burn it. I have done that even with this thicker vellum, but I didn't on this page. I managed to go through the whole thing without doing that. But you'll see the colors start to come up here, and it's really, really pretty. And I'm going to do a whole bunch more flowers. I'll do a few of them on camera just for you to see, and then I'll go back and I'll fill in flowers all over the page, some big flowers, some little flowers, all in these colors that match the background paper and the shirt that I was wearing in the photos. They're somewhat random, but I try to get at least 3 of each of the large flowers on the page. Keeping those odd numbers makes it look better in the end. Here we go. We're just moving quickly along each flower. Don't linger too long with the heat gun so that you don't scorch the paper. All right, now you'll see it's been completed. I've filled in all the space, or a lot of the spaces, and I want to add a little bit of zing to these with the sequins that came with the collection. So I'm not going to put them in the middle of every flower, but just a few of them. I'm doing them tone on tone, the blue sequins and the blue flowers and the magenta colored sequins and the magenta flowers, because I think that just keeps it as a little added touch without it being so much color everywhere. So it just accents each of the flowers. And I'm going to score a 1/4 inch from the edge because I want to be able to fold this paper over and see the journaling that's behind it. And again, with vellum, you have to be careful to score it. You don't want to cut through it. But this, again, stuff is pretty thick. And then what I have done is trimmed the pink paper down to where I have pink paper behind the journaling, and then there's a little strip of the stripe that will be on the left-hand page, and the rest of the stripe and the rest of the pink paper will be over on the right-hand page. And I'm just gluing everything together. And I'm using, I had a little bit of extra of that pink, part of one more sheet, and there's a blueprint on the back of it, and that's what I'm using to kind of create the gap, or cover the gap between the pages. So not really a gap, but cover the seams between the pages. You wouldn't have to do this. One thing I have done before is taken old paper and used as the background and then covered it completely with the 2 sheets of designer paper just as a way to kind of hold everything together. So old cardstock or old designer paper, especially that real thin stuff, if you still have any of that in your stash that you don't want, it doesn't matter because you're not going to see it. In this case, I used the strips to sort of hold everything together. And now I'm looking at some of the embellishments that came with the collection. There's some great little tags there. One of them said something about free spirit, and I was thinking to myself as I was doing this, if you're a caregiver, you don't get to be a free spirit. You may get to live simply. You may get to be creative, and I do. I get lots of creative time. I'm very fortunate in that respect, but I'm sort of on call 24 hours a day for things that need to be done. Everything from, my remote control isn't working, my TV's messed up, to I don't feel good today, or I need to go to the doctor. So I mean, you just don't. Your life is not your own when you have people to care for in your lives, and in my case it's an older parent. So anyway, but that's just the way life is. Now these letters they're watercolor paper, and they got a little bit of texture to them, and all you do is just add watercolors to add to give them some color, and it's really simple. I'm going to use 2 different colors of watercolors and paint my letters to say a new decade. It took me a while to sort through those letters. I just turned on an audiobook, turned off the camera, turned on the audiobook, and went through those letters until I found the ones that I wanted. I think one of the reasons I like thicker so much is that you can see all the letters in a pack at one time. You don't have to sort through them. But in these cases, what I had, what came with the collection. So this is Basic Gray product, and it's probably stuff I bought at the end when Basic Gray was going out of business, or going out of the paper crafting business. I think that's how I ended up with it, because this is not something I would have probably bought all these embellishments myself, but they are fun to work with. Now it's looking really messy right now, but when I get rid of the background paper, you'll see that these letters are quite neat. One of the things I want to work with this year is to get rid of a bunch of chipboard, and I have one piece there that I painted with white gesso, and then I added some watercolors to that too. That's a neat trick I learned in a class years ago. I think it was a class over at the old 2Ps, if I'm not mistaken. All right, so now you can see how everything flips back and flips over. The accomplishments section was too large to fit there, so I have it flipping out with a piece of washi tape on the left-hand side to hold it in place. And then I just have everything covered for my privacy here on the video, but I'll take those paper covers off when it goes in my album. Gluing in the final bits, looking at some of the embellishments that I think I want to use. I had a few more little pieces of chipboard that came out of that one strip that I colored with markers. And I consider stapling some of this stuff on, but I end up just gluing everything. And I wanted to add a few more flowers, and I went to my mixed media stash, and I was really surprised that these big flowers from Prima looked so good with this. I thought they would be a little too too distressed looking to go with the papers and stuff, but they look really good. So I have a few little flowers I'm creating a grouping of. And I'm going to glue all of these bits and pieces on, and I've got the stapler out, but I didn't end up using that. I did discover, though, at the last minute, a bunch of embellishments I hadn't even noticed that were in this packet. Another thing to sort of pull out and sort through. The theme for this collection is not entirely what I'm using for my life or what's going on in this layout right now, but there were a few things that worked, so I pulled out a few of those die cuts. And those are going to go with my little embellishment groupings. So I just have, since I've already glued things down, I have to figure out how to fit them in. There's one that's a circle, and that one reminded me of quilting, which is what I've been doing a lot of lately. And then there's one down there that says, have courage, be kind. I need to remember that. I need one that says, be patient. There are a lot of techniques on this 2-page layout. Let's review them. I used the Stampin' Up! Vellum and the Distress Oxide inks with embossing powder to create this embossed cover for my journaling so that I keep it somewhat hidden, but I can still access it by just flipping this page out, and you get to see the color on print on both sides. When I put this in my album, I will top load it, and so I'll have to pull it out to do this. You could cut this out of the page protector so it would be easy to flip in and out. I just don't feel like I need to do that because I'll have this information on my computer. I can look it up that way in the near future. This is just more for a long-term thing. If 10 years down the road I'm looking to say, well, what was I working on? What was I doing back then? Then I can pull it out and access it fairly easily. Also, I used the watercolor letters, paper letters that came with the collection, and then just added just 2 different shades of watercolors. All I did was 2 different colors, and you still got multiple shades on these letters here. Used some of the 6x6 paper as part of the background for the 2 photographs, and added some mixed media flowers, used several of the embellishments that came with the collection, including the little sequins. I added some words that I found in a different collection, just a few things that made sense for the page, and I narrowed down my chipboard by a tiny bit by working out a few little chipboard embellishments for the page. So there's, and it's a two-pager with two different background papers that kind of bring it all together, and this truly is only two 12 by 12 sheets and just a little bit of scrap of one of the other sheets. This pink is that blue there, and I had a little bit of a scrap to make it all come out, and that is it. You can do this technique with any two papers for a 12 by 12 if you have full sheets, and then if you want to create a border between them or a border over them, then you can just use stickers or some other type of paper to do that. And that's all you need to create a really cohesive two-page layout. So thanks so much for joining me today. As I said, this is always one of my favorite pages of the year, is to do this wrap up. And of course I'll take these covers off the words and everything when I put it in my album, but you just get an idea of how this is going for me and what I will use it for in the coming year and in future years. It really is fun to go back and look and see what you were planning to do, what you actually did, kinds of things came up during the year. I think it's a fun exercise, and I think it's a valuable exercise because it kind of keeps you on track with the stuff that you want to do, in addition to all the surprises that come along. So thanks so much for joining me, and I hope you'll stay tuned for more videos coming on my channel this year. I'll be doing a craft room walkthrough pretty soon. I've made quite a few changes to my room, and I want to share those. Thanks for joining me. Bye.